AfriForum just announced that we lodged a formal complaint for unfair racial discrimination on behalf of the Tears Foundation at the Equality Court. AfriForum is acting on behalf of the Tears Foundation, which has been at the forefront of the South African response to sexual and gender-based violence since 2012. I'm joined by Arends van Zyl, Campaign Officer at AfriForum, and Maura Glennie, founder of the Tears Foundation. Maura, please tell us what the Tears Foundation does and why you applied for funding.
I'm a survivor of gender-based violence, and I know what it's like to be alone and you can't get the help you need. So I decided that I would provide that service, which we do nationally. We help anybody of any race, any religion, and of any age right across South Africa.
Arends, what is AfriForum's stance towards BE criteria?
Well, firstly, BE is blatant racial discrimination. I think anyone can see that. But unfortunately, because we live under the rule of a race-obsessed government, it's been unfortunately normalized. And AfriForum's stance is as soon as BE and all the similar types of criteria can be abolished and removed, the better it will be for everyone and to the benefit of everyone except the politically connected and politicians, that is.
Maura, what made your organization decide to contact AfriForum for help?
Because I believe in fairness for everybody. I would never ever turn someone away from help, irrespective of their race or creed. And I believe that when the President announced this funding opportunity, it was for every member of South Africa to be able to take advantage of. I believe that perhaps if you don't meet the requirements of the fund has a right to turn you away, but not based on the fact that I did not meet their racial equity requirements.
Arends, how will AfriForum be assisting the Tears Foundation?
Well, firstly, we have been providing legal advice and legal assistance, and we will be continuing to do so, and we will also be representing them in court. And as you mentioned, we also lodged a formal complaint of unfair discrimination on their behalf.
And how does the government determine what race people are?
Monique, unfortunately, we don't know. I'm unaware of any type of formal criteria when it comes to what constitutes all these different racial criteria. They seem to have just really taken all the labels from the previous administration or previous regime and just reappropriated them and pretend like there's just nothing strange about that. But we don't know if there's any of these types of criteria. It's not been published. It's not available anywhere. So that's maybe something to look into in the future.
Maura, do you think government is failing victims of gender-based violence, and if so, why?
It is with great sadness that I acknowledge that I believe they're failing. Let's put it this way. We are 2 years in arrears with our DNA testing. That means there are rapists walking on our streets that have not been charged or brought to book. And that is a symbol of what's happening in every single area. Research has shown that people do not report their rapes because they get treated badly at the police stations. And so it's a real difficulty. We are being failed, and now we're being failed because organizations that apply for funding must now meet the criteria, which is not the BE criteria of our country, but the criteria of the funder. Come on, guys, we need to help rape and abuse victims. Let's stop with these figures. Make the most important criteria that the victim who's been raped gets the help he or she needs.
Arends, what is AfriForum looking to achieve with this case where you are representing the Tears Foundation?
So firstly, we want a declaratory order confirming that the racial criteria used in this case against the Tears Foundation be declared unfair discrimination, and then also that a directive be issued that the respondents revise all policies that use this type of racial criteria in the future going forward. And then lastly, we also like to set the precedent that these types of racial criteria like BEE are unfair, immoral, and that they have no place in our society, and that in the future going forward, we'd like to open the conversation about completely abolishing them.
Maura, how can the public help your organization to fight this fight against gender-based violence?
You know, when I started Tears 10 years ago, I gave up my corporate job because as a survivor, I understand the critical need in our country. I couldn't get funding. I bonded my house. In fact, where I live, they tried to get me to leave, because I refused to participate in a levy. I wasn't being contrary. I could not afford it because every single cent that I earned went into helping Tears. And I also want to make a very clear point today, that this is not about me. This is about those men and women, the majority of whom are black, in our country who needs help from organizations like us. We do not answer the phone, I will help you if you are green or pink. We say, how can I help you? And I believe that's the correct ethos for organizations that help with rape and abuse. We should help anyone, anytime. So how you can help me is we need funding and we need volunteers.
Maura, the President announced the Gender-Based Violence Fund in Parliament. Who is funding this fund?
Donors were requested to support the Gender-Based Violence Initiative in South Africa, where we are sadly called the rape capital of the world. The President called to donors across the world and across South Africa to fund a movement to assist rape and abuse victims. Those funders are drawn from every walk of life. Large national corporates, large international corporates, and organizations such as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And I feel very certain that they would be shocked if they know their money was being used in a racially discriminated way. And I call on everybody today to support your local rape and abuse facility, but also to put your money and your voice where it needs to be. That rape is not a color. Rape is rape and needs to be dealt with, irrespective of where you live, who you are, what color you are, and what religion you have. So I'm calling on everybody today to speak out and put your money there to help us. Query where the money's going, because without your support, we will continue to be underfunded, or the funding will continue to be misdirected.
Thank you, Arends, for your contribution, and Maura, good luck with the great work that the Tears Foundation does on a daily basis. The extent of race obsession in South Africa is demonstrated in this case, where an organization which fights gender-based violence is prevented from receiving funding from the Gender-Based Violence Response Fund based on racial criteria. You can help spread awareness against racial classification and discrimination by sending this video to all of your friends on social media.